okay, so we're gonna fast forward to going into the 11th grade, right? Going into the 11th grade, and I get into it like with my stepfather. I can't really go into that violent details or whatever, what I was trying to do and shit. But I ended up getting kicked out the house, and I ended up getting my own apartment. I was like in the 11th grade. I moved in during the summer, and then started 11th grade and shit. And what was going on basically and shit, like, my mom's and shit was feeling like me and my stephouse was gonna like go at war. So I guess she felt like the only way to have some peace in the family was to be able to, get me out the family or move me and shit like that. So I had my own apartment. I didn't have nothing in that apartment. I had like some silverware, a few forks and spoons, a couple plates I took from the house, couple towels. I had my stereo system I got for Christmas. I had a bed. Um, Pretty much that's it, man. And the only food I had was like daycare food, like peanuts and raisins and peanut butter and crackers, fucking pear halves and peaches and shit like that. Ramen noodle soups, all that shit. That's what I was surviving off of. So I end up I end up just being like a loner in that house. You know what I'm saying? I was really fucked up. I was like, I just felt bad and shit. You know what I'm saying? Even though I had my own crib, it felt good to put my own key into the lock and shit like that. It was still like a fucked up ass experience to me. I'm like, why the fuck I'm getting kicked out the house and shit? So I didn't understand like the joys of having your own apartment and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I was still trying to, figure that shit out. So a couple of my partners and everything, they knew about the apartment and everything like that because I didn't really hang around a bunch of niggas at that time. I only had like a few. And then I remember at the high school and shit, they used to play their games and shit at the stadium and everything like that. So I remember one particular night, um, they had won, right? They won football, and then my partner rang the doorbell and shit, I looked down and everything and shit like that. And he was like, "Hey man, you know what I'm saying? Let us up." So and then I looked over and shit. I see all these fucking people and shit come, right? So it was like the whole fucking, it was like fucking 40, 50 people and shit walking down the sidewalk. So they all start coming in and stuff. So I started moving shit around the crib, whatever. I ain't really gonna hash it up in there, but I'm just trying to straighten up a little bit. And then I don't know, man. I got to the door. He came in there and he was like, "Man, dog, we about to have a party and shit." I was like, "What you talking about?" Like that, right? So he come through there, another girl come up in there and shit like that. She come up to the door, and then she was like, "This where the party at, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, $3. I don't know why I came up with that price and shit. It was like $3 to be able to get in, right? So I was getting paid like $3 each person. Now, mind you, I had no furniture in there, so it was like a big ass dance floor. It had no furniture, no nothing. And then all I did with my stereo system, I had like different CDs. I put on a CD carousel, like the 6 disc changer. You know what I'm saying? I put all them in there and I put that shit on shuffle, and it was just been one. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody was partying, and then it was an open pantry right next to the apartment. So a couple of my other homeboys and shit and their friend or whatever went over there and paid, a couple like alcoholics or whatever standing around the store to go get some Mad Dog 2020, to get some Old English 800 and all that type of shit. So we had the party was like, what I'm saying? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like we was like getting in. So I'm throwing these parties like all the time. Every time there's a home game, I'm throwing a party, right? So I'm going from football to basketball. That's when I was really like booming with the parties and shit like that. So one day and shit, I'm at the crib. I think it was like a Saturday or whatever, right? And then this lady coming in knocking, the door and shit. She was looking for her daughter, and she was like, "Yeah, I heard my daughter be going to these parties over here. She in trouble. She on punishment for being out late. I wanted to know where she was at." So she like older than me. She was like in her 40s and shit, like what I mean, maybe late 30s and shit. 40 whatever, and she stepped in the apartment. I just got a respect for the elders and shit, like, you know what I'm saying. I'm just like, let her in and all that. So she's like, "Oh, this where the party at," or whatever. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." So I'm not about to rat on her daughter and shit because I knew who she was. I knew. And she said her name and shit. So we get to talking and everything like that. She's like, "How you get an apartment by yourself?" And I was like, "Why you guys give me no questions and shit? I'm just, I'm old enough, I'm faking a little bit, right?" I'm like, I'm old enough and all that type of shit when I really ain't. So she's like, all right, cool. So another time she stopped by and she brought me some spoons and some forks and shit, right? And some plates and shit. And she was like, hey, you might need this. And then she stopped by again and started bringing me food and shit like that. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm like eating Chinese food now. We talking and, she trying to tell me about, her life a little bit and everything, telling about, stuff that I should be doing as a young man. So then she started getting me like drinks and shit, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was like Seagrams and shit like that. So we doing shots of Seagram's gin and all this type of shit. And then one night it just go down, right? So she ended up got me in a room and we like foreplay and shit. I'm not even nervous and shit like that. I guess it was just like the liquor and the weed at that time and shit like that. So I'm like tongue kissing down this like this older lady and shit, feeling all on her and all that type of shit. So I go immediately in with the you know what I'm saying, with the oral sex and shit, with trying to eat her pussy and shit. So she was like with it. So while I'm eating a pussy, I'm just thinking like I'm doing my thing, like because the shit that I'm doing to the high school girls, they like going crazy over that shit. So when I get to her and shit, she like feeling it, but then she was like, "No, this is what you need to do. I need you to go real slow and suck on my clit, like really, really slow, and I need you to flick your tongue up and down like that." So she was like teaching me how to be a master at that shit, right? So I'm like learning from her, this older woman, and this is like happening like maybe like twice a week. She'll come by and shit, and then she started buying me shit. She started buying me like Jordans and shit. Then she's trying to furnish the apartment and shit. I was like, no, because I needed the space and shit for the parties and shit like that. Because if I got furniture and shit, you know what I'm saying, I ain't gonna have like no dance floor right there. That was just like my vision at that time. But she was like buying me clothes and shit like that. She like leaving me money in the drawer and everything, like a couple $100 and shit. I was just fine and shit. And then I start realizing the power of eating pussy. Right? It wasn't just creating like giving a woman an orgasm or just something that I liked myself because it was more sensual, it was more romantic. It was really about like um material items and shit that I was getting, you know what I'm saying, from this woman and shit like that. So it was just like going on for like months and months and months and months. I wasn't saying shit. But I did go back and holler at my partners and shit around this time. I thought things would change and shit. And niggas was still talking about they wasn't eating no pussy. Niggas was still talking about they just long dick a chick and I just be one and shit. So I just felt like, damn, like none of y'all doing that shit. And I was just like, man, I'm the one who got the skills, so I'm gonna have everybody bitch. That's what I'm thinking in my head, right, at that time, right? So the lady ended up coming by the house one day. I think it was like on a Sunday, and I had a chick up in there already, a high school chick, like my age and shit. So she knocking on the door and shit. So I had a pistol up on the mattress, so I pulling that out, walking down the hallway, and I'm trying to like creep and look through the crack of the fucking door, the hinges and everything, see who it is. I'm like, who is it? Shit, she say her name. I can't say her name because I don't know. I don't know where her life is right now. But open up the door and everything. I'm like, what's up and shit? Why you didn't call me and all that type of shit? And then she's like, I know, I'll just stop buying all that. And then the girl that was in my bedroom, she's like, who was that? And then she looked at me, dog. She was like, you got a bitch in the room with you? She kind of like whispered or whatever like that. And then I was like, what you tripping about? So I tried to like move her close into the living room by the far window and shit so the other girl wouldn't hear. And she's like, oh, so it's like that and shit. You got a bitch. And then my gangster side came out and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is you talking about, man? I'm 17 years old, man. That girl is like my age or some shit. So a bunch of shit that I was like saying to her so she can understand like that girl's my age and shit. I'm not expecting, this older woman to be tripping on me like that, like I'm her dude or whatever and shit. You know what I'm saying? So she caught like major feelings with me just eating her pussy like that because I never had sex with her. Only thing I was doing was just eating her pussy all the time. And she just having orgasm after orgasm after orgasm. Sometimes it'd be like 3 times in like one session, like and shit. So she was just like in her feelings about shit, dog. And I was like tripping. So then after that, she'll come around and she started giving me more shit. And then she used to be telling me, like, all them young bitches can't do nothing for you and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like weird to me like that. You know what I'm saying? But she was still teaching me how to eat pussy like so, so good. And then I